All right, let's go ahead and get started. I wanted to welcome everyone to today's session, and we will be talking about how to update views. So this will be a good session for a casual or advanced users that don't necessarily have a way to create their own views. How do you take a view that already exists and make it your own? That's really kind of what we're going to focus on today. So that's essentially what we'll do. We'll go into a view. We'll choose a view. First of all, it might be advantageous for you to choose a view that has some things in it that you may want to use. So, picking out a view that may fit 80%, 70, 60% of what you want could be a way to save some time. And then, how do you make the changes? How can I quickly create my view out of an existing view? What's the quickest, easiest way to do that? Adding or removing dimensions, measures, and calculations. And then using the View Explorer is a great way to accomplish that very quickly. So we'll take a look at that. And then finally, how do you save it? So you'd want to save those changes, and you can save it as a casual user or an advanced user. You can save those views as either a shared or a personal view. So that's our topics for today. And so we will get into that right directly into the demo. So first of all, we've got a new class curriculum out there for the fourth quarter. It's been published. Some of you have access to the homepage, and it has been published, so that's available today. As you can see, we are looking at existing updating views, and then there's the rest of the year's courses, which in the latter part of November we'll be looking at Stratum year end. Don't forget to create your tables in your and update your calendars. So we'll go into some of that later in the fourth quarter. All right. So how do I look for a view? Well, we all kind of know how to do that. You can go into the view groups, kind of figure out, if you want some sort of comparative sales view, but maybe make it your own or anything else for that matter. You could select what view that you'd like to make your view. Clearly, you can run it at this point. Then now you can make your changes. So in this case, first things first, is it the dimensions that you want? As you can see, I can come in and I can get rid of some dimensions that I don't care for, and I can just use the navigational bar to kind of give me a basis for the dimensions that I want to include. If I want to add more, I can click on the plus sign and I can go in and add additional dimensions as I see fit. Pretty simple to do, but again, just at surface level, I'm just working within the navigational area. And this might be just an easier way for you to manage your dimensions. If you want to go a step further, like we said in the intro there, opening up your View Explorer. So the View Explorer, as you can see, it's a button up here on the ribbon, and I can click on it to toggle the View Explorer on and off. But what the View Explorer does is that once you have it enabled, you can then use the View Explorer to very quickly delete or hide things. So that's why I like to come in here, and also it gives you a nice bird's eye view of the elements within your view that you can very quickly assess and manage. So in this case, if I want to just get rid of some things, that I don't want within my view, I can actually start selecting things that I don't care to have. For instance, if I wanted just a sales comparison view that gives me this year and last year's sales, which are those columns there at the end, then I could just whack everything else within this view by, first of all, selecting it. And then I can either hide them because maybe I want to bring them back in, or I can completely get rid of them by selecting the X. So you'll see in the View Explorer, once you select some things, you'll have, there's this little menu up here in the upper left-hand corner of the View Explorer. And this will allow you to either delete, hide, or show things that you have selected within your View Explorer. Pretty small menu, but a very powerful one. So in this case, if I wanted to hide the selected elements that I have, these dimensions and these measures, then, obviously I've made my selections and now I can go in and click on the uh, hide items. So before I apply anything, again, Stratum gives me the capability to go ahead and apply it. And now the view's been, those changes have now been applied. So what has happened here is that now those dimensions are hidden. So it's almost like drilling wise that it's almost like they don't exist. Check out my navigational pane. It actually shows the dimensions that do exist instead of the hidden ones. Other things I can go into here. Notice that my measures are grayed out as well. Those are the hidden ones that I selected. And now I've got just the measures that I want along with the calculations. Pretty simple to do. Now notice that, this is a time range view as well. So how do another thing I might want to do is make a view that has time in it as a hierarchy, and I can change that out as well. Before we get into that, I just want to go in and maybe show another way to clean this up would be to go ahead and select the measures that you, instead of hiding them, you can just get rid of them completely, right? So if I want to go ahead and select the dimensions that are hidden, and then I can completely get rid of them. So now the view is much cleaner without the hidden items in them. So you decide, right? You'll decide whether you want to hide them, delete them. Um, Hiding them, it's easier to restore them. When you completely delete them from the view, you have to go through more steps, right? I have to come into my measures and then add a regular measure, go find the ones that or add in the additional columns that I want, et cetera, et cetera. So think about it. It's not something that you just want to do, willy-nilly. This is definitely something to think about so that you can work smarter and faster. Um, if I wanted to go ahead and save this away, then I can click on my Save As button. The Save As menu allows me to go ahead and give it a different name, a different view name. So it has to be completely different than the view that you started out with, because again, you're not allowed to save over any global views. You are, however, able to save over your personal views. So depending on what you start out with would depend on whether you click on Save or Save As. The descriptive area, again, is up for grabs. So complete, if you're happy with what you have there, or you can completely update that. It's up to you. Um, Sometimes I'll put my initials after my views to make them my own. I've seen that at other customer sites as well. What type of view will you save it as? Again, I'm a security administrator, so I do have the ability to save global views, but some of you may not have that ability. So you may not see the global option there. Don't freak out. You can always save it as a personal view or a shared view. And then that way it basically becomes the personal view it's your view, essentially. Nobody really can get into it other than administrators. So if you really want this to be yours, then you can go ahead and just save it as your own view, personal. And then finally, what view group do you want to save it to? And you can save it to multiple ones. So if you find something that other ones that you want to save it to, you can actually select more than just one. There's a little menu down here that allows you to select the presentation format. So when you run the view, do you want the view to actually render within Viewer, or do you want it to render within an Excel spreadsheet? And that's what that final little option is for. I saved that away. Looks like I've already used that name. So we'll put a little 2 after it. And there it is. So the view name's been changed. As you can see, it's up here in my title. There's my new view name. And then if I go to my favorites, I should see a comparative sales view out here with a 2 after it. And there it is. So, actually, I think that was a different one. It's in my favorites here. Yeah, there it is. So I did put a, that's an older one that I've used in prior sessions. I should delete that. And then here's the one I just created. And there, yeah, so that's it. That's the one we just created. If I open my View Explorer, indeed, it's all been cleaned out and just like we left it, when we saved it away. So pretty simple to do, right? I mean, it's not, I've made this my own to a certain degree. If I wanted to add any additional measures or dimensions to drill to, pretty simple, right? This is something that I can do very quickly and easily. Other things that I might want to do, as I stated previously, is maybe I want to change this dimension or this view to use time as a dimension. And if you don't know how to do that, this is something that is available with any of your versions, and you can use time as a dimension, which would allow you to drill in and on time, by year, by month, by week, day, whatever it is that you want to create. Um, it does require a bit of knowledge about how, what dimensions to use and how to use them. But once you grasp that concept, you can build more like a trend style trending view that will show you the data by month, by week, by day, and allows you to see the trending of the data. So if that's of interest for you, this is something that you can actually do. Again, you can drive that from an existing view. So in this case, if I wanted to, first things first, if I wanted to change my view from time range to time hierarchy, uh, that's done at the measure. So I need to open up my View Explorer to get that done. And then if I come to the measure items folder and I right click that, if I select properties there, you'll notice that there's a toggle menu for the time range feature. And currently by default, typically when you create a new view, it is turned on. And we can see that the columns over there, they have a time range in them, of course, January to September of 2024. So, again, it's obviously a time range view, but I'm going to tell it to turn off time range, right? And when I do that, I get a menu up here that basically says that changing this will affect my existing measures and they'll need to be removed. So I'll need to re-add those back in, and that's my sales amount measure. Okay, no big deal there. I'll go ahead and click OK to that. And indeed, the measures are gone, right? So let's go ahead and add then back my sales measure, my sales amount measure, which is what we were looking at. So we're going to add that back in. So there it is. Now, given that time range is gone, I need to add in my time dimension, and I can put that on rows or columns. It's just like any other dimension that I can use. I can place it wherever I can place any other dimension. So let's put it on. For instance, let's start with the columns and see what it looks like there. So I'm going to right click my column folder. I select edit to add in a dimension. And if I go straight to the bottom, we can see that, there's a bunch of dimensions that start with the word year. And indeed, those are my time dimensions. So I'm going to grab one, for instance, year months, and I'm just going to double click that. So I select it and I click OK. And I'm just going to go ahead and apply the change. And we're going to see how this changes my view. So first of all, we'll see that my sales amount has come back, which is great. And then what I get here is a list of the view or years that are available for my data. So now I actually have a trend style of all my years. I do have this not mapped column, and that seems to be some data that's not mapped to a given year. So we'll filter that out. You probably shouldn't see that, but if you do, you can always filter it out, talk to your administrator about it, but that's something that you can clean up pretty easily with a filter. So now I've just filtered the years that I want to include within my view. This is actually a great view. I personally like using this as a feature. It's very powerful. I can now see my trend style of my years. I can sort my year in descending fashion if I want my most current year to show up as the first column, right? And even more powerful is I can drill in on it. So now I can drill in on 2024 and I see the trend of the data for my different brands. So just like any other dimension, I'm able to actually drill in on it and get more granular level of detail for time. I can do that for any one of my years for 2023, or I can click on the year and it will actually drill in on all of those years and give me a subtotal break in between the years, which is kind of nice too. So, adding in time as a dimension, changing the given feature or the time range to from yes to a no allows me to again add in the time as a dimension and create this trend style looking view that allows me to trend out the data as I see fit. And on top of that, I can add in even more time units. For instance, if I want to drill from month to weeks, I can do that. I can also drill then from weeks to days and kind of daisy chain out the time units so that it gives the users the option to see additional detail of data if they want to. So now I'm drilling from January to into my weeks, and then I can then drill the week then into the daily buckets that allows me to see the daily data. So you can stack them, right? So you can stack these time periods up, and then add them in and drill them into give the user the capability to drill into these aggregate levels of time, and see the weeks as they come out, and then obviously down to the daily level, which is really nice. Um, Other things you can do here, like for instance, when I drill to the week, I see that it just gives me a week number. I can right click on weeks and then add in an attribute that will maybe give me the week ending or the week date. Um, that's something that you should be able to do. I don't think you can do it on these single level time dimensions, though, interestingly enough, because I don't see anything there for the ending date. Nevertheless, you can stack these up as needed. You don't need weeks per se. If you wanted to whack weeks and just go straight to the daily level for that month, obviously that's available too, which is really cool. So again, being able to, you can also even put time on your rows if you wanted to. For instance, an easier way to compare the years and the months. It might be more visually appealing for you to actually put this um, on your rows. So here I've got, we'll grab months. I don't think we have the single level time dimension of months. There it is. And that allows us to place the months on. So we'll put that back on my columns. And I can take my months and put them on my rows. That's actually what I wanted to do. So here we can see the months on my rows, and then I can put my days up there after that, right? And then I can hide this monthly level. See what I'm doing here? And so now I'm actually looking at this is company-wide sales with the ability to compare January to January to January, right, on the same row because I put my months on my rows. And I can do the same drill downs into the days, which is kind of cool too. And I can compare the days throughout the years. This is demo data, right? So it doesn't really mean anything, but certainly you could do this with your data. It'll mean a lot more. Trust me. Right. And then if you wanted to filter on some things like a given brand or whatever, you can put that in the view filter if you wanted to, and then you can filter, right click, filter edit, and then pick, Farm Fresh, which is one of my top brands. So now I'm actually just looking at Farm Fresh and their trend of their data for sales amount. And then, yeah, if you want to add in more measures like units, you can always add in more measures here and get the units in there maybe. Then you can get more data in there and trend, looking at those trends as well. Pretty simple to do. I can calculate off of these if I wanted to add in a calculated measure. Then I can, do some sort of like a selling average sell price. Just doing simple math, or better yet, you can use the Stratum viewer functions, and you can do like a divide by zero in case some of those are zero. You can then pick your numerator, your denominator, format it for money, give it a name, and bring in your calculations here. Here's my average sell price. That's obviously drillable daily, right? So, kind of crazy, but this came from that other view and it looks completely different, right? We were able to actually not only change out the dimensions, change out some of the measures, we then completely change time range and use time as a dimension so that we can see the trend style of the data, right? And then now that this is my personal view, I could just save over it, right? Because it's mine now. So you just click on the save button and you've got your changes saved.